night. Then as we go into Sunday and the system moves eastward, that area of snow on the northern edge of the precipitation shield in the cold air cuts across I-70 from Kansas City over Indianapolis. Again, look at the footprint of the snowfall here, European model and the GFS model. Pretty close right now in the general idea of the snowfall here. We take a look at a place like Denver. This is going to be Saturday evening, 4 to 6 inches of snow there. Going to have to watch that carefully in the foothills. Much more snow is likely. And then St. Louis, again, I-70 corridor here, I-44. These are the areas that really have me concerned there, Saturday night into Sunday. There's your time frame there into St. Louis. Now, let's take a look as we get into the east here. Sunday morning, this system is going to cut out and make a beeline for the northeast coast here. So let's go ahead and let's play that forward as we get into Sunday evening. Cleveland, Indy, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, all into the snowfall. If the European model forecast as we're watching here comes true, it ends up here close enough to the coast, Alex, to keep the 95 quarter rain. The GFS model, on the other hand, a little further offshore, would bring 95 corridor Monday morning into a snow event. We've got to watch this carefully.
Yeah, still enough discrepancy in the model, a lot of question marks over this forecast. All right, Tom, thank you. We've got a lot more to come on that. Also, this.
As soon as we roll a sled out and start hooking it up in the morning, they know, oh God, we're going to go, so they get all excited. They're all going to say, no, me.
It's a story of second chances and love you got to see. racing through the snowy woods on a dog sled is a bucket list item for many. But there's one man in northern Montana who is living his dream every day doing just that. He's not the only one living his dream, though. His dogs are too, in one big, happy, furry family.
Good dogs, good dogs.
To some, this may seem like hard work, but to these dogs, pulling a sled through a winter wonderland is play.
Good dogs, good dogs.
And their playground is an 11.5-mile trek through Stillwater State Forest, just north of Whitefish, Montana. They are members of an extended family of dogs. Their patriarch is Jeff Olsemer, who's known as the Dog Man.
First day of the rest of your life. They're my kids. I probably should have had 4 legs.
He's earned that title not only because he's been running dogs for 4 decades, but because he's rescued hundreds along the way.
When I started in Colorado, all of my dogs were pound hounds, and most of them were, not husky. And I rehabilitated them and found them a home. So, and if they wanted to be part of the gang, well, God, I'd let them.
Today, 130 dogs live with Jeff at Dog Sled Adventures, and about a third of them are rescues.
Here's Tug. He's one of my old lead dogs. That dog comes from an unwanted home. He's a great lead dog. Hey, Tug. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hey, bud. I go down to the pound and I see a dog that needs some direction in life, and I know they can pull. They're all physically talented, but it's what's inside of them, and I know what's inside of them. They just want to please their owner. And Annie and Oakley were the ones that were severely abused. They were scared of people. They'd shake like a leaf if you got near them. No, they're not huskies, but boy, can they pull. And then after they start working, they have a pride, and they want to get hooked up, and they want to show everybody what a great job they do and everything. It's really fun to watch that turn over.
The Dog Man spends most of his day out here in the yard taking care of his kids. He feeds them by hand and offers a little praise and affection.
You are a good girl.
It's relatively quiet in the yard most of the day, until it's time for a run.
Well, as soon as we start hooking up one dog, they're all going to say, no, me, me, me. They love to go.
Jeff only runs the dogs if it's below 45 degrees, and the colder, the better.
The best temperature for the dogs to run in is not the best temperature for the people, okay? Because between 25 and 35 below, they work the best.
It's obvious these dogs thrive in this environment. Many live to be 15 to 20 years or older.
They live long because they eat well and they exercise right. They are not overworked, so each dog gets to work once a day here, and we don't run them twice a day. A lot of dogs that I get out of an unwanted situation or out of the pound and stuff have never had a life. They've never been able to do something that they love to do. So giving them a job and a warm meal gives them a sense of purpose. A lot of people buy these very expensive dogs that were bred to do something, and they never got to do it. So that's, to me, it's a fulfilling thing to let them get to do what they want to do.
How cool is that? With 130 dogs, there are a lot of names to remember. Well, he knows each of them like children. He uses themes like desserts, musical instruments, or even car parts to keep track of who's who. And in case you're wondering, the dogs eat 350 pounds of meat each day. That's 115,000 pounds a year, brought in twice a year with a semi-truck. Yeah, cool story though. And if you're looking to do that, go up there and take a ride on the sleds. Those dogs would love to have you. I think I could tell they were pretty psyched. Well, a 6th-generation family-run farm is now selling off livestock after blizzard conditions caused a barn to collapse. Sunday's snowstorm destroyed a large portion of the barn in eastern Minnesota, or southeastern Minnesota, near Chatfield. The cows, they're going to get to live out their lives at a nearby dairy farm, since their home is not there anymore. Tough go, but glad they're getting a safe place to call home as well. Let's take you to parts of the Midwest right now where the snow continues. Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, just clouds right now, but we do have some snow that'll begin to move in your way. Lexington, rain, Louisville, rain. Areas south of that also seeing the rain. Jackson, you've got some moderate showers just off to your north and west, and that's beginning to move into parts of West Virginia as well. It's way up in northern West Virginia that we're going to see any of the rain. Rain across the south as well. Sections of North Georgia, much of South Carolina, and western North Carolina getting in on the soaking rains as well. The real downpours, though, they're focused down near the Gulf Coast into places like New Orleans, where they've actually moved up some parades today. Don't know that that's going to do you much good because the rain and the thunderstorms, they're out there right now. So we'll check in on the status of those. But look at the rainfall just within the last 3 hours. You can see some of these areas around and southeast of Morgan City have picked up 2 to 3 inch totals or more. 3.4 inches there right around Morgan City, with rain still falling down in many locations. Well, still to come on the show, the potential for big snow increasing in the Northeast this weekend. We'll break down where more than a half a foot could fall and what major cities along the I-95 corridor, what they can expect. And February will go down as a month to remember in the record books, but some of the reasons why may surprise you. We'll explain when we come back.
Storm Tracks brought to you by Purina. Your pet, our passion.
February may be the shortest month, but there was no shortage of big weather events. Just yesterday, thousands of homes and businesses were flooded in Guerneville, California. Days of heavy rain caused that Russian River to rise more than 45 feet, the highest in nearly 2 decades. Well, people are now having to get around using boats instead of cars as they wait for the floodwaters to recede. And just last week, we had record snowfall burying cities along northern Arizona. Flagstaff, for one, picked up 35.9 inches in one day. It was the snowiest day on record for the city. Take a look at this time-lapse video. How cool, right? Just how much snow coming over the 2 days, and then it looks like a little wear and tear once everybody gets out there and starts to enjoy it. But Tom, I got the chance to fly out west, and you could see that swath of snow focused right across parts of northern Arizona.
Oh, yeah. It's been a fascinating month from a meteorological
Yes.
point of view here, and there's been some interesting records set, Alex.
Yeah, even though you guys at home may not have loved it.
May not. On either side of this coin.
Right.
We're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these. So first, we're going to start with snowfall. Let's take a look at the U.S. here, month-to-date snows, and take a look at this. All of these cities, this is crazy, had their snowiest February on record. 2 or 3 events here into Seattle that came down from these Alaska, Gulf of Alaska lows, Alex, and this entire region here really lit up with snowfall. And as we go a little further to the east, look at Minnesota and Wisconsin, all of these cities as well, setting records. This is the highest February snowfall on record for Wausau, Sault Ste. Marie, Duluth, Minneapolis, Fargo, all of these areas getting records for snowfall. One of the reasons, of course, you got to have cold air for snow. And this is a fascinating map to show here. This is February, okay? Take a look at the cold air that's located where all those records were set and the warm air here. Cold and warm, that big dichotomy there produces a strong jet stream that's set up here. That jet stream location is important, Alex. Take a look at the month-to-date average temperatures. Again, some of the coldest on record for February across the plains. While we're seeing that in the plains, to the south, we were seeing the warmest temperatures on record. And so all of that plays into the way this pattern set up across the U.S. Just fascinating.
And looking at our coast-to-coast storm, we again have that warmth, threat of severe focused across the south, and now we're going to be looking at wintry weather west to east.
Yeah, this one's going to clobber everybody on its track going across the U.S. here. So it's going to be one extensive track. Take a quick look here. Again, over 2,500 miles of snow coming all the way from the Sierra right up to the coast of Maine. And this is going to go Saturday through Monday. As we go in the early part of the weekend here, it comes out of the Rockies where Denver gets heavy snow Saturday into Kansas City, St. Louis along the I-70 corridor going into Saturday night as well. Both of our models are showing a really good footprint of snow across this area. Denver picks up the heavier snow here again Saturday evening. St. Louis is going to come into play. And again, I'm really concerned about the I-70 corridor. Then as we get into the Sunday-Monday timeframe, both of our computer models showing a big footprint of snow across the mid-Atlantic into the northeast here. I should say Ohio Valley into the northeast. The European model keeps Boston and New York more in a rain event here because the system is closer to the coast. Let's put on the GFS model. That's a little further off the coast, and it brings New York and Boston more into play for this event. In any event, the northeast here, the Ohio Valley, and then all the way back through the plains has to be ready for a good dump of snow here the weekend going into the beginning of next week.
And it looks like maybe the strength of the storm in general, is there's a disagreement. A European looks to show a stronger storm, whereas the GFS
Yes.
a less potent low?
Yes, and that's why the European takes a little more of a left track on that. That's typical of a stronger storm. Good point. Good
Well, so
observation.
it just gives us another reason to watch this one through the week
Very
because
close.
still there's plenty of disagreement in intensity and location.
That's correct.
Aye. All right, time now for you to sound off. You've been sending us your questions. Time of Truth says, what is going on? When is New York City going to get some snow? And Tom, perhaps this weekend, but perhaps is the key.
Well, it's interesting because New York City could be in play for a couple of rounds
Good
of snow.
point,
They've
yes.
got this little sneaker event that comes in Friday night into Saturday, and then they've got the more significant nor'easter snowstorm that we're looking at here in that Sunday night to Monday timeframe. So if you're in New York City and you really want snow, head to the north and west because you're
Exactly.
definitely going to get it.
Exactly. You know, good point. Sarah, do we have the graphic for tonight? Because that is
Friday
tomorrow's
night
event
into Saturday.
that we could see some of that
I'm
snow.
really concerned about that one. That's going to be a little sleeper event here. As this low goes off the coast, and it really starts to intensify just as it comes off the coast. Look at around the Cape there. That's 5 to 8 inches of snow, and that's before our big event. So this is another one we've got to watch very carefully.
All right. You've got questions. I know you do. Send them our way. Use the hashtag WUTV, and we'll be answering them on the air throughout the show. And we still have much more ahead. A dangerous, severe threat developing this weekend across the South. We'll show you where the risk of tornadoes and damaging winds is going to be the highest. And we're watching for the potential for some disruptive snow in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow. We'll tell you why the timing couldn't be any worse for cities like Washington, D.C., and where your drive might look like that. Right now on Weather Underground, we are tracking multiple winter threats with major cities in the crosshairs, including Washington, D.C. and the Mid-Atlantic. We'll show you the latest timing for incoming snow and where it will be a potentially rough morning across the region tomorrow. And this weekend, the main thrust of a coast-to-coast storm reaches the Northeast with more than a foot of snow possible. We're going to break down each and every scenario and why the highly populated Interstate 95 corridor is still very much in play. And across the South, this potent winter storm is fueling a dangerous threat of severe weather this weekend. Find out where the risk of damaging storms and tornadoes is increasing. And a frozen lake is always a dangerous proposition. We're going to take you in depth to show how literally just a few inches can mean the difference between life and death. Plus,
As soon as we roll a sled out and start hooking it up in the morning, they know, oh God, we're gonna go, so they get all excited. They're all gonna say, no, me.
How cute. It's a story of second chances and love. We're going to take you inside a very special sled dog camp where one man's passion is giving these dogs a new purpose in life. It's all next on Weather Underground. Hey there, welcome into the show tonight. It's Thursday. We're almost there, right? I'm Alex Wilson, joined tonight by winter weather expert Tom Nizzle. We've got a lot to talk about, including some breaking news out of Sonoma County, California, where one man has now become victim to the rising floodwaters across the northern part of California. We've learned this man was trying to get to his flooded home last night where his 3 children were trapped by the high waters. The water he was wading through was high, about 5 feet deep, and it was moving quickly. He got swept away by the current, and despite the efforts of 3 people to try to save him, they could not get to him in time. The Russian River crested earlier today at just over 45 feet. Water levels now starting to go down, but you can see for this community, the damage really already done, and we've been seeing a lot of high water across this area. In fact, Guerneville was only accessible via boat. No roads for vehicles in or out of the city available. They were all flooded. Well, from flooding to winter storms, we've got not 1, not 2, but 3 snowmakers on deck that take us into early next week. And we're going to time out the snow city by city and storm by storm for you. We've also got to look at scenarios on the table for our 3rd storm. This one could be the biggest, and it could bring snow to the I-95 corridor. So there's our big picture, our first system that's going to lead to some travel troubles tomorrow. Our next storms, they're still, in the on-deck circle. One up into the northwest, the other one still off the Pacific coast. You're looking at D.C., though, Tom. This is one of the cities that could see the travel, the commute problems tomorrow because of our little sneaky storm.
And it is sneaky. We've got a lot of elements that have to come into play here, Alex. One of them has to do with dry air. So let's take a look at this. Right now, if we take a look at the radar across the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic here, there's some snow coming down on the north side of that precipitation, a little bit of mix of precipitation in Cincinnati. Washington's at 44 degrees, but their dew point is down in the teens. And that simply means there's very dry air in Washington right now. It's going to take a while for that moisture to saturate the atmosphere before it comes down to the ground overnight. And as that process of evaporation continues and saturates the air, it'll drop the temperature very, very rapidly. So here we go. Indianapolis has got snow now. Cincinnati had a little bit of mix of sleet and rain. This area is moving across pretty rapidly here toward the mid-Atlantic here, where D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia all have winter weather advisories in effect through tomorrow morning. Let's watch the progress of the system here. And what I've got right there, that is the 32-degree line, that blue line that is there. As we go overnight into the rush hour here, we drop down close to 32 degrees in D.C. That morning rush hour is likely going to be accompanied by a combination of a little bit of sleet and snow in there. Probably going to see 1 to 3 inches in that area. It'll be out by about 11 a.m., but the morning rush could be rough.
Yeah, it's just the timing, man.
Yeah.
And then we've got another system, this one going to work through parts of the Midwest, then into, say, New England as we head into the end of the week and the weekend.
Yeah, and this system's going to be interesting. I'm going to bring this one up here right now. And this system is, let me bring that up right
This one will
here.
be a quick hitter because this is the one that currently we looked at. And man, this thing was off the northwest coast right now. So it's moving pretty quickly west to east, which has been kind of the norm with our systems thus far.
It has been, and this is another fast-moving system. What concerns me is not the amount of snow, but the timing. It comes in very rapidly. Your visibility restrictions will go down pretty rapidly here as we get across the upper Midwest tomorrow. And you can see it right here, Minneapolis and Green Bay. The latter part of the day, the evening rush hour is going to be difficult in that area because the snow will come down pretty fast. Friday night, it goes across lower Michigan. And by the way, guys, I'm concerned about this here. This is going in from New York City up toward Providence in these areas. This little system that works its way off the coast may bring enough moisture back into the cold air to give a little surprise snowfall in that part of the world. Finally, as we get into Saturday, it'll probably warm up here enough to eventually change that over to a wintry mix. But you take a look here into Saturday night, a little bit more snow in the northern part of New England. There are the snowfall totals across the upper Midwest. Not a lot, but timing is important. Green Bay is going to see this during their evening rush hour. And with temperatures down in the low 20s, that makes it difficult for snow or for salt to melt the snow on the roadways. Here's the area I'm really concerned about. Providence, going in through the areas south of Boston there along the Cape, easily could see 3 to 6 inches of snow here. This is going to be overnight Friday night and a Saturday morning, so be aware of this. Probably after the evening rush hour, but you may wake up Saturday morning with a little surprise amount of snow in places like Providence over to Nantucket. So we'll watch that carefully, Alex.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the cold air that it brings in behind it. We've got some cold days coming. It's also been a stormy month. For some, we talked about how it was the wettest month on record. For others, the coldest. So February really brought it all. You just looked at the wettest month in Eureka. Now Billings, Montana. Look at these low temperatures just over the month. Okay, so the first and the second, we were above average for our lows. The rest of the month, way down there. I mean, what's the warmest? It looks like single digits. 7 was the warmest low temperature. Nope, 8. 8 on the 23rd. That was your warmest low temperature for the month. Most of the lows were below zero. Some of them even 10 degrees or more below zero. As we get into the weekend, there's that push of cold air that works all the way across the central part of the country. So 10, 20, 30, even 40 degrees below average. You thought we were going into March and all was going to be forgotten as far as winter was concerned, but you're still going to need the scarves, the hats, all of it. Even next week across parts of the southeast, temperatures 15, 20, 30 degrees below average, getting into parts of the south central and southeastern U.S. And even with cold temperatures, you cannot be sure that the ice is safe enough to be on. Meteorologist Mark Elliott takes us to a frozen lake to show us just how thick the ice needs to be before you can be out on it.
You are looking at the nightmare that happens every year across America. Pushing the limits of thin ice, a day ruined, property destroyed, and in the worst cases, lives lost. And it can happen on days like this, a seemingly normal day with just a little bit of a chill in the air. You want to be out there having fun on the lake, but it is essential that you know how thick the ice is, or a fun day can turn into a dangerous one. Ice thickness varies across the lake. Over there, it's right around 4 inches, which is the recommended minimum thickness for ice fishing. You can check for posted measurements, or better yet, measure for yourself, like I did earlier. It's around 10 inches near me. That's a solid amount of ice to help. Whoa! Oh, those snowmobiles can really pick up speed. And if you want to be snowmobiling like those guys, make sure there's a minimum of 5 inches of ice when you ride over a lake. And speaking of riding over a lake, check this out. Some ice can support vehicles, including a pickup truck, but it needs a full foot of ice to support that weight. If you do head out, make sure to drive slowly and stay at least 50 feet away from other vehicles. The weight of the truck alone can create waves that shift and crack nearby ice, making it extremely dangerous. Honestly, if you don't need to be out driving on the lake, don't do it. Oh no. Oh, did you hear that? Oh man, there goes the truck. Let's face it, even if you got one good measurement, that ice thickness can vary over short distances, and a frozen lake is never 100% safe, although that truck is 100% toast. Scenes like that one may actually become more common across America. Winters are warming, and the ice just doesn't last as long as it used to across many North American lakes. Climate models indicate this will continue. So take precautions seriously. Make sure to check ice thickness before you head out and enjoy that day on the lake, because times like these may not be like they used to be, and they may not last much longer.
And if you do fall through the ice or with someone who falls through the ice, here are some things you need to do, of course, after calling 911. That's always your first, most immediate option. Preach, reach, throw, row, throw, go, and row. Preach, encourage the victim, reassure them that help is on the way. So you never want to go in after the person. Then you've just got two people that are in need of rescue. But encourage this person, let them know help is coming, help them stay positive. Reach would be the next step to take. You want to extend an object. Maybe you've got something in the car. Maybe you've got a baseball bat or a rake in the back of your truck. You're going to want to extend this out and see if you can pull that victim to safety. Throw a rope. Maybe you've got something like a rope. A lot of people keep jump ropes with them, to do fitness on the road. Tie something or throw something like that, and if they can tie it around themselves, get pulled in, that's also a good option. Go. Do not go out on the ice unless all other techniques have been ruled out. And then row. A boat would be something else you could use, a light boat to the edge. Here's the thing. I know you're at home going, well, I don't have really any of these. The first responders will have the tools that they need. So first and most importantly, call 911. Well, now to the west, where the Russian River, it's finally retreating tonight after days of heavy rain pushed the river to its highest level in more than 25 years. More than 2,000 homes and businesses in wine country were swamped by that rising river. We've been looking at the scenes in and out of Sonoma County, specifically in the Guerneville area, where you couldn't drive in or out of the town. If you were there in town, you were stuck in town, the town and island, and that was the only way to get around, via jet skis or boats or canoes. Guerneville, you have seen that river crest, and now the water levels are going to begin to go down. The latest check, 42.93 feet. It crested earlier today at 45.38 feet. So it went up quick, and it is going to go down quickly as well. So that's some good news. We're not looking at a slow recede to the water. The upper disturbance diving south late this week. We've got jet streams, winds that once again enhance the lift and once again feed moisture into parts of the west. So rain and thunderstorms return to parts of California, including that possibility of heavy rain. Also, high elevation snow will be heavy once again. Good news for the ski resorts and the water supply, but the rain has been too much to handle for many of these communities. And you can see as we get into the weekend, Saturday through the morning hours, we've got another slug of heavy rain across a lot of the state. Even parts of southern Nevada, the Vegas area, getting some rain into our Saturday. Northern Arizona, northern New Mexico, rain and thunderstorms for you also throughout the afternoon. San Francisco, here's the timing. It's late Friday into Saturday morning that we'll watch for the best opportunity for rain. So early Saturday morning, 2, 4 a.m., 6 a.m. Going to be a great morning if you're off to just stay in bed, staying cloudy and staying showery even into the early afternoon. But we've also got to talk about the snow with this, and then this storm itself just becomes yet another coast-to-coast storm, Tom.
It's amazing. And we're going to pick this storm up after it comes out of the Rockies, okay? And we're going to show you what happens with this. It's a classic combination, a classic setup here. If you watch me, you'll often see how I combine the cold air and the moisture to produce the snowfall. So here we go. First of all, there is the low, and it's going to take a track like this right along that cold air. To the north of that track is typically where we get the snowfall in this area right here. This high pressure system is going to play the role of bringing that cold air down into the central and even into the southern U.S. Watch that as we go through Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then this system makes a beeline right up the northeast coast here. A lot of cold air in its wake. As a result of that, we've got a coast-to-coast snowfall event here all the way from the Sierra up to the coast of Maine. Picking it up on Saturday, Denver's going to get a pretty good burst of snow Saturday, and back into the front range of the Rockies, we could see double-digit snowfall. Saturday evening into Saturday night, it comes out across the plains. Kansas City, St. Louis, you're going to see the snow. Oklahoma City, you may be in line for a little bit of freezing precipitation there. Then as we go into Sunday, take a look at the system now heading across the Appalachians. In its wake, the I-70 corridor from KC over to Indianapolis could be impacted by several inches of snowfall. Here is part one of that system here. And again, the European model putting the footprint of snow down in that area, the GFS model very close as well. Likely at this point, the heaviest snow to the south of Kansas City, but really could impact the St. Louis area. Here we go. Denver, 4 to 6 inches of snow across that area. Further to the east across St. Louis here. Heavier snow right now being forecast just to the south of you. But again, watch your travel on the I-70 corridor. In St. Louis, the time frame is going to be most likely late Saturday night through the first half of the day on Sunday. Now, part two. This is where the East Coast is going to become involved here. As we go during the day on Sunday, this system moves northeast on the east side of the Appalachians. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo get into the snow. These types of system, if they hug the coast, will bring warmer, moist air in off the Atlantic and change the I-95 corridor between New York and Boston to rain. The European model is forecasting that. The GFS model, a little further off the coast, has colder air right down to the 95 corridor and more significant snow for Boston and Portland. Here is the European model forecast. There's the heaviest snow. Notice New York and Boston on the southern side of that because they're going to be warmer. If you look at the GFS model forecast, there is more significant snow a little further south here. The upshot on all of this, Alex, is the latter part of the weekend going into the beginning of the work week for that extremely highly populated northeast corridor from New York to Boston has to really be on guard for what could be a significant snow event.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. Well, coming up on Weather Underground, a dangerous severe threat developing this weekend across the South. See where the risk of tornadoes and damaging winds is highest. And with the severe threat comes more heavy rain in that already hard-hit part of the South. We're going to show you who's in the bullseye this round and where some people just don't want to see more rain. seen about 12 miles upriver from New Orleans. This Bon Caire spillway opening up. Engineers decided to open the spillway on Wednesday. This after a bout of heavy rain and rising water levels. This is going to help divert some of the Mississippi's river's water into Lake Pontchartrain. There's St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, you're looking at. And we have seen a lot of rain today across parts of the New Orleans area, and that's obviously not ideal. There are parades today. It's the season where everybody is out and about celebrating. I even had some king cake today. No baby for me. I didn't catch it. So I guess one, I don't have the good luck for a year. Two, I guess I don't have to buy next year's king cake. So positives and negatives, right? Across the South, all positive in terms of our departure from average. All these cities, Memphis, Atlanta, Birmingham, and Charlotte, all running over 7 inches above average. So not only are we above average, but we are way above average. River gauges at flood stage. You can see plenty of them across the Southeast in moderate, even major flood stage. And knowing that more rain is coming, that means we've got to really stay on guard. Look at the rainfall still to come through Monday morning. So end of week and weekend, 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. Still a good bet across a good chunk of the Southeast. Right now, we've got some heavier rain showers right along 95, areas around and north of Florence, South Carolina, up near the North Carolina state line. We get you down to New Orleans, though. They even moved up the timing of parade to maybe try to beat the rain. Not the luck for those parades happening today. We've seen the rain showers and thunderstorms over the last hour, and they're still hanging around New Orleans. At this point, we have seen accumulations over almost 3.5 inches in Morgan City just over the last 3 hours. So obviously, got to keep flooding on our mind. In Baton Rouge, the Mississippi River is expected to reach 43.1 feet as we head into the middle part of March. So it's going to be a slow rise and a slow fall. That's what we see so many times with the Mississippi River. It rises very slowly and it comes down. Once you're at 40 feet, parts of Louisiana State University become flooded. At 43 feet, industrial and agricultural activity are significantly affected. So this is something that's going to have an impact moving into the month of March. And having a plan in place before any type of flooding happens can help avoid confusion, also help prevent injuries. Chris Warren explains what you need to do right now.
The best way to reduce the impact of flooding is to have a flood plan. This will help you make quick, practical decisions if waters rise. A flood plan is not difficult. First, check to see if you have flood insurance. Find out if damaged belongings will be replaced with new ones. If you're a renter, ask your landlord if insurance covers your personal property. Make sure you know how to turn off your gas, water, or electricity. If you are not sure, ask for advice. Unplug any equipment that uses water, like washing machines and dishwashers. And do not touch sources of electricity when standing in flood water. Build barriers like levees, beams, flood walls, and sandbanks to stop flood water from entering your home. Move valuable items upstairs or to a high point on your property. Keep a kit of essential items in a plastic bag. You can get a large Ziploc bag right now to put copies of your insurance documents, matches, a small radio, and a first aid kit. And remember, yours and your family's safety is most important. So move them and your pets upstairs.
And as we were talking, you can expect a soggy weekend across the Southeast, another 1 to 3 inches for many locations, including Jackson, Mississippi. It's thunderstorms that'll be rolling into the area Saturday night. More storms, more heavy rain on tap for Sunday. So if you got stuff to do outside this weekend, it's really going to be about finding those quiet, dry times. There's not going to be a lot of quiet, dry time. Sunday, this is your zone for severe weather. So we've got to watch parts of Louisiana and Arkansas up into the northwest corner of the state of Georgia. Torcon values, they're at a 3 for Sunday. That's a 30% chance of a tornado within 50 miles of towns in northeast Louisiana, northern Alabama, and northern Mississippi. Setup looks like this. You know, if you've lived across the South this month, it's been mild this month. So we're going to keep that southerly flow, keep the warmth and the moisture over the region. In fact, Sunday forecast highs into the 60s and 70s. So this daytime heating is going to give us some energy for the storms. Strong southwest low-level jet. So out of the low levels, winds are coming from the southwest. Out of the west, though, as you head up into the jet stream levels. So higher levels, they're going to be coming out of the west. So more of a west to east. And you know what that is? Turning of wind with height, change in wind direction with height, that is our shear. And so high levels of shear and also moisture with that Gulf of Mexico moisture very much in play. Medium levels for lift and instability. But when we look at all these ingredients and we look at what we've got, we are concerned about that possibility for some severe weather this weekend. It would be pretty much in line with the areas that we typically look at this time of year for severe weather. So Oklahoma City to Dallas, all the way over to the Georgia-Alabama state line is our greatest occurrence zone for severe weather, and that falls with the area we'll watch this weekend. Tornado reports this month, 24, so not much throughout the month of February. In fact, half of our average. Typically, we'd see about 48 during the month of February. And our streak of no violent tornadoes continues. This is obviously great news. There were 0 violent EF4 or EF5 tornadoes in the year 2018. That was the first year on record without an EF4 or EF5 tornado. In fact, our last EF4 was back in 2017. Our last EF5 was May 20th of 2013. Well, still to come on Weather Underground, we're watching the potential for some disruptive snow in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow. We'll tell you why the timing couldn't be any worse for a place like Washington, D.C. And it's a movie come to life, a man's passion giving these dogs a new purpose on this week's edition of Storm Tracks. Mother Nature is reminding us that it is not quite summertime. Look at this. The beach homes in New York, not soaking up the sand, but instead covered in ice. Strong winds created massive waves. Those pounded the shore, and it sprayed the homes with water that then froze. People living in the area are now worried that when the ice melts, this could flood the neighborhood. Wow, look at, like an iced up village. Pretty crazy there from Ramona, New York. Well, welcome back into Weather Underground on this Thursday, last day of February. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Alex Wilson. We got winter weather expert Tom Nizzle here in studio to help me break down the three, you heard me right, 3 snowstorms that we are tracking tonight. The first one is making its way towards the mid-Atlantic right now. You're taking a live look from our nation's capital at the areas expected to get slammed with a wintry mix of rain, sleet, and snow. It's going to get slammed because it's not necessarily the accumulations, but the timing that's going to be a real nightmare. Washington, D.C., you'll begin to see the wintry weather move in during the overnight hours, and it will continue just in time for your morning commute, right? I know. And Friday morning is usually the one where you're the most sleepy. You hit the snooze button maybe 2 times instead of 1. Tomorrow morning, you really got to get up, get going, because you got to count on that morning drive taking you a little bit longer than usual. 16.6 inches of snow this season for the D.C. area. That's actually your snowiest season since 2015, 2016. So no slouch so far, and we add a little bit more snow into the picture later tonight and into Friday. But that snow, by the way, tomorrow will transition to rain. Right now, we're seeing that snow edging through parts of Ohio. We've got rain up 79 in West Virginia around Morgantown. That's where you see the snow, and that snow will be focused over parts of southwest Pennsylvania soon enough. But right now, Indiana into Ohio, Dayton, Columbus, Chillicothe all have the snow. Cincinnati, closer to that wintry mix, in areas south of that into Kentucky. We have the rain. Some heavier rain showers coming down now, working their way closer to Huntington, West Virginia, and Ashland, Kentucky. Baltimore, your forecast looks like this. Snow begins late this evening, and it continues into tomorrow morning. So 4, 5, 6 a.m., even till 8 a.m. We're talking early morning commute, mid-morning commute, the big rush, and also bus stop pickup time will be snowy there in Baltimore. Here's your 7 o'clock forecast. D.C., Baltimore, Philly, all dealing with snow. Even New York City area getting in on the snow. Our 32-degree line there in blue. By late morning, we'll begin to see that transition to rain for many, including D.C., take place. Then we've got another system to watch. Well, we've got 2 more, but we really want to talk about the third, because this one could be the main event.
I like that. That's the main course. This is the one that really is going to pack a punch to most people across the nation, all the way from Denver, Casey, St. Louis, Pittsburgh. You name all these big cities likely going to get impacts from this. The silver lining right now, Alex, at least for most of this area, is it occurs on a weekend. Let's pick it up on Saturday coming out of Denver, where they're going to get 4 to 6 inches of snow. This system is now going to cut across the plains here to the north from Kansas City over to St. Louis, eventually getting to Indianapolis snow. But take a look at Oklahoma City. Parts of the Saturday evening time frame there, you could get that dangerous mix of a little bit of sleet and freezing rain there. Then as we get into Sunday, the system is now transitioning, gets off the Appalachians here and to the north, the I-70 corridor between Kansas City and Indianapolis, then heading over toward Pittsburgh. These are the areas that are going to see the snow. Look at that snowfall footprint here. There's the European model. We'll kind of put this here and show the GFS model. Boy, they're very close on the footprint right now. They have good consensus on the track of the low pressure system here. Take a look at Denver here. Again, I mentioned somewhere around 4 to 6 inches of snow, but you get up into the foothills here toward Estes Park, could
Big
easily
difference.
see a foot of snow out of this. Classic with that, isn't it? And in St. Louis, you take a look here, again, about a 3 to 6 inch snowfall total across here, and this could be adjusted. All we have to do is change the track of that system slightly to get more snow or less in that area. Their big time frame, again, is going to be that Sunday morning, going to church services. Now, Sunday, we're going to pick this up going across the Ohio Valley and upstate New York into Sunday night here and Monday. Watch what happens here. The European model is keeping the system right along shore here, taking an inside track, which would keep the I-95 corridor more rainfall. If we go with the GFS model, still a little further offshore, allows the cold air to come right down to the coast here and would be more of a snow event for this area. So if we look at the snowfall, the European model has more of a big storm event here, heavier snowfall totals interior New England, and a large area of 12 to 18 inches of snow. The GFS model, a little flatter solution with a short wave, comes off the coast, more snow along the coast here, but overall not as big impact with total snowfall amounts.
All right, so still a lot to watch, a lot
Very
of
much so.
agreement left to come into.
Yeah, we'll get a better beat on this tomorrow.
All right, Tom, thank you. And we've got a lot more ahead on Weather Underground. Look at this.
As soon as we roll a sled out and start hooking it up in the morning, they know, oh God, we're gonna go, so they get all excited. They're all gonna say, no, me, me, me.
Oh, a story all the dog lovers, even non-dog lovers, but are there non-dog lovers in this world? You're all gonna like it. A story of second chances and love. Can I get an ow for that? Yeah.
You're down.
Racing through the snowy woods on a dog sled is a bucket list item for many, but there's one man in northern Montana who is living his dream, doing just that every single day. But he's not the only one living a dream. His dogs are too. They're in one big, happy, furry family.
Good dogs, good dogs.
To some, this may seem like hard work, but to these dogs, pulling a sled through a winter wonderland is play.
Good down.
And their playground is an 11.5-mile trek through Stillwater State Forest, just north of Whitefish, Montana. They are members of an extended family of dogs. Their patriarch is Jeff Olsemer, who's known as the Dog Man.
First day of the rest of your life. They're my kids. I probably should have had 4 legs.
He's earned that title not only because he's been running dogs for 4 decades, but because he's rescued hundreds along the way.
When I started in Colorado, all of my dogs were pound hounds, and most of them were, not husky. And I rehabilitated them and found them a home. So, and if they wanted to be part of the gang, well, God, I'd let them.
Today, 130 dogs live with Jeff at Dog Sled Adventures, and about a third of them are rescues.
Here's Tug. He's one of my old lead dogs. That dog comes from an unwanted home. He's a great lead dog. Hey, Tug. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hey, bud. I go down to the pound and I see a dog that needs some direction in life, and I know they can pull. They're all physically talented, but it's what's inside of them, and I know what's inside of them. They just want to please their owner. And Annie and Oakley were the ones that were severely abused. They were scared of people. They'd shake like a leaf if you got near them. No, they're not huskies, but boy, can they pull. And then after they start working, they have a pride, and they want to get hooked up, and they want to show everybody what a great job they do and everything. It's really fun to watch that turn over.
The Dog Man spends most of his day out here in the yard taking care of his kids. He feeds them by hand and offers a little praise and affection.
You are a good girl.
It's relatively quiet in the yard most of the day, until it's time for a run.
Well, as soon as we start hooking up one dog, they're all gonna say, no, me. They love to go.
Jeff only runs the dogs if it's below 45 degrees, and the colder, the better.
The best temperature for the dogs to run in is not the best temperature for the people, okay? Because between 25 and 35 below, they work the best.
It's obvious these dogs thrive in this environment. Many live to be 15 to 20 years or older.
They live long because they eat well and they exercise right. They are not overworked, so each dog gets to work once a day here, and we don't run them twice a day. A lot of dogs that I get out of an unwanted situation or out of the pound and stuff have never had a life. They've never been able to do something that they love to do. So giving them a job and a warm meal gives them a sense of purpose. A lot of people buy these very expensive dogs that were bred to do something, and they never got to do it. So that's, to me, it's a fulfilling thing to let them get to do what they want to do.
Well, with 130 dogs, there are a lot of names to remember, but he knows them. He knows each dog like a child, and he uses themes like desserts, musical instruments, or even car parts. So the dogs in groups have those kind of names. And in case you're wondering, the dogs eat 350 pounds of meat each day. That's 115,000 pounds a year. And some of the dogs, once they get to an age where they don't want to do the runs anymore, it's too hard for them, they're retired and they still hang out on the property. Well, record-breaking snow has caused problems for a farmer in Wisconsin. He says the snow is so high that his horses are escaping. They're making a break for it. They're using mountains of snow to walk over a fence. Well, isn't that creative? So more snow in the forecast. He says he's got to work extra hard to keep all the horses behind the fence. He hopes it melts soon, or he's going to have to just start plowing snow, make like a snow fence. But I guess that doesn't work because they're like, hey, we'll climb it. Those smart horses. Hey, let's get a look at what's happening across parts of the Midwest right now. That's where the snow is falling. We got an area of moderate snow here between Indiana and the state of Ohio, down towards Cincinnati. Some clouds, Louisville and Lexington, both on the warm side of this, but it's a very cold rain with temps in the 30s and rain coming down. You can see some heavier rain showers working through, say, Ashland, Kentucky into Huntington, West Virginia. We've got rain in Charleston. Morgantown, you're going to see the snow. So depending on where you are far in West Virginia, most of the state gets the rain. Morgantown gets some snow. Jackson, Kentucky, you've got rain showers around. Same for Pikeville and southwestern Virginia, also getting in on the rain. We take you down into the Carolinas, right along the state line between North and South Carolina. We've seen some moderate rain focused north of Florence, heading up into North Carolina. So got to watch for that around 95. On south of the border, right? And New Orleans area, that's where the thunderstorms have been focused. At this point, some of those thunderstorms extending farther east over towards a place like Biloxi right now. Well, ahead on the show, the potential for big snow is increasing in the Northeast this weekend. We'll break down where more than a foot could fall and what major cities along the I-95 corridor can expect. Last February will go down as a month to remember in the record books, but some of the reasons why might surprise you.
Storm Tracks brought to you by Purina. Your pet, our passion.
New video coming into us of the floodwaters in Sonoma County, California. Some incredible rainfall totals here across California's wine country. We're talking for some over 10 inches, for some over 20 inches of rain, and thousands of homes and businesses were flooded after that Russian River was on the rise. Got higher than 45 feet, the highest in nearly 2 decades. Beginning to come down, though. Well, just last week, record snow buried cities across northern Arizona. Flagstaff, Arizona, for one, picked up 35.9 inches of snow in just one day. That made it the snowiest day on record. And this time-lapse video shows just how much snow came down over the 2-day event. So you get to see it happen, and then obviously like a little bit worn after the fact. But man, blanketed across the area. You see the shrubs, then you don't. February, for some people weren't happy for reasons of warmth or storms or cold and snow.
Yep.
But, we did get to some superlatives. Maybe you got the coldest or the wettest for you. So I guess there's something to be said for taking the top spot in one of those maybe bad weather things.
I guess that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
And depending on where you were in the country, you're either exceptionally cold, exceptionally warm. Most of those areas also quite wet. Take a look at the Pacific Northwest here. These areas had their snowiest Februarys on record, and some of these records go back well over 100 years. Seattle, these areas here, all had a series of systems that came down in that cold air to make the most of it and produce tremendous snowfall. And the upper Midwest, Duluth, Minneapolis, Wausau, and Sault Ste. Marie, all of these areas as well, record snowfalls during the month of February. I found that amazing. But when you look at the temperature anomalies, the difference from what you normally see across the U.S., boy, it's polar opposites here. Very cold up here in the upper Midwest and very warm down here in the Southeast. That's where all the snow fell. When you get these temperature differences, that's what builds the jet stream, right? And so we had this really strong jet stream through here, very active, good snowfall track there to the west. Take a look here at the cold temperatures. Number 2 on record for a couple of these sites for the coldest February, combining that with the snowfall, very extreme winter.
And those average temperatures for some below zero. Great Falls and Bismarck had an average temperature, so the average of all the highs and lows, below zero.
Which is really something here. Havre, Montana actually had an average temperature of 7 below zero for a month.
Ooh, that's
crazy.
Rough. That is rough.
And on the other side, take a look at Florida, just basking in that heat for the month of February. There's a place to go in the winter.
Absolutely. I think the residents of Havre are like, you know what? I think I know where I'm headed for maybe March. Given that setup and its persistence here moving forward, we've got another coast-to-coast storm that could bring us some similar things. Snow across the west. We could be talking about more rain and severe across the south.
Yeah, that's correct. The cold air is going to make it down about like that. And you're right. There could be severe weather in the southeastern part of the U.S. here. But boy, the snowfall totals, a huge swath here coming out of the Rockies, Denver, through the plains here along the I-70 corridor. Could see a good 8 to 12 inches in some of these areas. Both our computer models are suggesting that footprint of snowfall that we use to help make our forecast here. You take a look at St. Louis, 4 to 6 inches, shovelable snow across this area here. And then up to the northeast, Alex, take a look at this. So the European model, very bullish on heavy snow across upstate New York, Pennsylvania, interior New England. Boston, New York, not seeing much of any snowfall here. The GFS model, a little further off the coast with its track, brings that cold air all the way down to the 95 corridor and more snowfall here. Going to have to watch this going into the first day of the work week.
Yeah, it could be a real a real troublemaker for your Monday morning. All right, time now for you to sound off. You've been asking your questions. Give them a shot and answer them. Rhonda would like to know how much snow for Morgantown, West Virginia tonight. And that's one part of West Virginia that may get a little snow. The rest of the state going to stay too warm, but even so, not looking at really accumulating snow likely.
My guess in Morgantown, you're probably going to pick up a couple inches. Again, depending on your elevation. It's very elevation dependent.
Yeah.
Also, you may get a little sleet that mixes in with that. So just be aware of that as you go into the morning hours. You can see the precipitation working its way eastward pretty rapidly here. And again, again, at the higher elevations, you could get into a snow event there. So we'll have to watch that carefully.
So I guess even though our graphic doesn't really show much out there, a place like Morgantown, Western Maryland, where you get up into some elevation, we could see some localized spots where we pick up some stuff on the ground.
Especially up above around 1,800 feet.
All right, you heard it here. Let's get to another one. This one coming to us courtesy of Steffi. And Steffi wants to know, I know it's too early to tell, but is it a good probability that Manchester, New Hampshire will get a foot of snow from the next storm?
Oh, it's certainly possible. You take a look at the snowfall totals. And again, for those of you who aren't aware, Manchester in the southern part of New Hampshire there, and that area, based on the European model, could get double-digit snowfall. The GFS model a little less, but nevertheless, still significant snow, though. So Manchester, get the skis ready. It's going to be a great beginning of the week to ski.
All right, and we've got a lot more ahead on tonight's show. When we come back, a severe threat developing this weekend across the South. We're going to show you where the risk of tornadoes or damaging storms could be high. Right now on Weather Underground, we are tracking multiple winter threats with major cities in the crosshairs, including Washington, D.C. and the rest of the Mid-Atlantic. We'll give you the latest timing for incoming snow and where it will be a potentially rough morning commute across the region. Well, this weekend, the main thrust of a coast-to-coast storm reaches the Northeast with more than a foot of snow possible. We're going to break down each and every scenario and tell you why the highly populated Interstate 95 corridor is still very much on the table. In the South, this potent winter storm is fueling a dangerous threat of severe weather this weekend. We'll tell you where the risk of damaging winds and tornadoes is increasing. And a frozen lake is always a dangerous proposition. We're going to take you in depth to show you how literally just a few inches can mean the difference between life and death. Plus,
as soon as we roll a sled out and start hooking it up in the morning, they know, oh God, we're gonna go, so they get all excited. They're all gonna say, no, me.
Need a Thursday pick-me-up? Stay tuned because we've got a story of second chances and love. We're going to take you inside a very special sled dog camp where one man's passion is giving these dogs a new purpose in life. Gotta stay tuned. It's next on Weather Underground. Hey there, welcome into Weather Underground. Happy Thursday to you. We are almost there. We're almost to Friday. I'm Alex Wilson, joined in the lab tonight by winter weather expert Tom Nizzle. And we've got a lot to talk about, including some breaking news out of Sonoma County, California. One man has unfortunately now become a victim in the rising floodwaters across the northern part of California. We've learned the man was trying to get to his flooded home last night where his 3 children were trapped by high waters. The water he was wading through was high, about 5 feet deep, and it was also moving fast. He got swept away by the current, and despite the efforts of 3 people to try and save him, they could not get to him in time. Well, in parts of California, neighborhoods are underwater. You're looking at a community half-hour drive from Santa Rosa. Now, this city got hit hard by this week's atmospheric river event, that slug of moisture. Some communities, including this one, picking up over a half foot. Here are more than 8 inches of rain just within 3 days. Well, from flooding to winter storms, we have not 1, not 2, but 3 snowmakers on deck that will take us through early next week. We're going to time them out city by city and day by day for you. We'll also play out the scenarios on storm number 3 because that one could bring snow to the I-95 corridor. Tomorrow, this is our morning travel trouble snowmaker, and this one could bring snow to parts of the 95 corridor just in time for your Friday morning. But it is storm number 3, that coast-to-coast storm system that we're really going to be watching as we head into the weekend. Places like St. Paul, D.C., and everywhere in between, all in play. But before we get to our coast-to-coast storms, I want to talk about this sneaky mid-Atlantic event moving into the overnight and especially tomorrow morning. A lot of big metros could be in play.
Yeah, the concern here is that we're not going to get a lot of wintry precip, but enough to really mess up that morning rush hour, which in and of itself is always a mess when you get into places like D.C. Let's take a look at what we've got right now with the radar here, Alex, and you can see this area right here. On the northern edge of the precipitation shield is where the air is cold enough to produce a mix of a little bit of snow here. Cincinnati now coming down with snow, and there's a little bit of sleet in there as well that has been reported across the area. Winter weather advisories out now for places like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia. Not a huge snowfall, but this is going to come in overnight here. That blue line, the darker blue line you can kind of make out there, that's a 32-degree line. And watch that kind of move south here as we go overnight. D.C. gets into the snow probably that 1, 2 a.m. hour, and it will continue to snow here, mix of snow and maybe a little bit of sleet in D.C. as we go in through the morning rush hour. I think the heaviest snowfall is going to be north of D.C. up toward Baltimore, where you could get as much as 2-3 inches of snowfall here. D.C. is going to change over to rain before this event ends, probably late morning. And again, we're forecasting, we're not showing much in the way of snow here because right now the forecast is suggesting a little sleet as well. But I would not count out 1 to 3 inches of snow across this area here. And you take a look at a place like Baltimore, that snow comes in overnight and it continues for the first half of the day here. The saving grace, the temperatures are going to be right around the freezing mark, Alex. So hopefully the roads will not be that bad, but we're going to have to watch that during the morning rush hour.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, everybody taps the brakes a little bit more when the snow is coming down. Well, now I want to take you out to the west where the Russian River is finally retreating tonight. This after days of heavy rain pushed the river to its highest level in more than a quarter century. It's 25 years. Can you believe it? More than 2,000 homes and businesses in wine country were swamped by the rising river. This park also swamped by all that extra water. And we now look at our next storm system that could bring more rain, more snow to parts of the west. Let's start with our 3-day rainfalls. Before we look forward, we'll look back because some of these totals have been just incredible. 3-day rainfall, Venado, over 20.8 inches just within 3 days. Obviously, the site of the Russian River right in here and all of that water moving into this river valley. making that river rise rapidly. It is now beginning to go down, so there's some good news. Plenty of locations, though, over 10 inches. Other spots like Santa Rosa and Sonoma, over a half foot of rain just within 3 days. Our next storm system, though, the third that we're talking about, is going to be another coast-to-coast event, another one that's going to usher in more Pacific moisture into parts of the west. So tropical moisture again in play. That means the possibility of heavy rain, also thunderstorms possible. Here is the future radar. We're going to get you into late Friday, really though early Saturday morning. That's when the more significant rainfall begins to move in across parts of the west. Some of those heavier showers and that high elevation heavy snow. By Saturday, mid-morning and late morning, we'll begin to see that rain fill in across other parts of the west. So southern Nevada, southern parts of Utah, northern Arizona getting in on some of that heavy rain. By late Saturday, you can see the snow begins to be focused over parts of Colorado, rain through New Mexico, and the rain lets up across a lot of California, save for some scattered showers. In San Francisco, we've got rain moving in late on Friday, but heaviest as we go through the early morning hours of your Saturday. One of the positives, it seems like, with this storm, Tom, is that for many locations, the snow will be coming on the weekend, but we'll track this into the Northeast, and then the weekday, Monday morning, comes in play.
Yeah, and Alex, you pointed out a little while ago, we saw that graphic that showed the coast-to-coast storm. Right now, that feature is about 1,000 miles off the coast of California.
It's got a lot of room to go.
A long way to go. And it sounds like a lot, but 100-mile difference in the track coming up the East Coast could mean all the difference in New York or Boston getting a snowstorm or not. So that's the kind of uncertainties that are built into this part of the forecast, guys. Take a look at this. Again, a 2,500-mile swath of snow. It cuts all the way from the Sierra right up to the coast of Maine here as we go from the weekend to the beginning of next week. Saturday time frame coming out of the Colorado Rockies, Denver is going to get several inches of snow. The system cuts out onto the plains and puts down a broad swath of snow that is going to go all the way from Nebraska in through Missouri and through Illinois and Indiana. Kansas City, St. Louis going to come into play here. Later on Sunday, the system now moves up toward Indianapolis into Ohio. And then as we get into Sunday night, Monday, we'll show you what happens in the Northeast. This is the footprint for the snowfall across the Central Plains right now. Take a look at that from the European model. The GFS model, very consistent here. They've got a pretty good bead on the track of this low and are pretty consistent in their forecast here between these models. So there's a pretty good certainty here across the plains here of several inches of snowfall. In Denver, 4 to 6 inches likely, more into the front range of the Rockies there up through Estes Park. In St. Louis, also looking at a 4 to 6 inch snowfall. Right now, the model's suggesting the heavier snow to the south of St. Louis. Sunday morning church services, be aware of that for traveling in that area. Then as we come into the end of the weekend here, Sunday into Monday, this system is going to make a beeline up the coast here. If it stays real close to the coast, it will mean a rain event for New York up to Boston. If it tracks a little further off the coast, colder air comes into play and it'll be a snow event. So here we go. We're going to take this into Sunday night and Monday morning. There is the European model location of the low. That would bring rain to the I-95 corridor from New York to Boston, heavier snow to the west of that. The GFS model has this somewhat further to the south, and it will track more off the coast. That brings the cold air all the way down to the 95 corridor. A weaker system, but snowfall impacting many millions of people more. The European model, there's a footprint. Heaviest snow inland from the coast. The GFS model brings New York and Boston into play, but a little less snowfall totals overall. We just need to keep an eye on this as we go into the beginning of the week.
You bet. All right, Tom, thank you so much. Here's what's still on tap as we head back down to the cave. Icy inches, weekend worries, and second chances. First up, icy inches. A frozen lake, always a dangerous proposition. We're going to take you in depth and show you how literally just a few inches can mean the difference between life and death. Plus, weekend worries. A dangerous severe threat is developing this weekend across parts of the South. We'll show you where that risk of tornadoes and damaging storms is highest. And second chances. We'll take you inside a very special sled dog camp where one man's passion is giving these dogs a new purpose in life. A story you have to see. Trust me on this one. Stay tuned. once the ice cracks, moments of panic and terror can set in. If you fall through the ice, you'll find it hard to breathe. Within 10 minutes, you can lose control of your arms and your legs, and within an hour, your whole body can slip into hypothermia. Meteorologist Mark Elliott takes us to a frozen lake to show us just how thick that ice needs to be for you to stay safe.
You are looking at the nightmare that happens every year across America. Pushing the limits of thin ice. A day ruined, property destroyed, and in the worst cases, lives lost. And it can happen on days like this. A seemingly normal day with just a little bit of a chill in the air. You want to be out there having fun on the lake, but it is essential that you know how thick the ice is, or a fun day can turn into a dangerous one. Ice thickness varies across the lake. Over there, it's right around 4 inches, which is the recommended minimum thickness for ice fishing. You can check for posted measurements, or better yet, measure for yourself, like I did earlier. It's around 10 inches near me. That's a solid amount of ice to help. Whoa! Oh, those snowmobiles can really pick up speed. And if you want to be snowmobiling like those guys, make sure there's a minimum of 5 inches of ice when you ride over a lake. And speaking of riding over a lake, check this out. Some ice can support vehicles, including a pickup truck, but it needs a full foot of ice to support that weight. If you do head out, make sure to drive slowly and stay at least 50 feet away from other vehicles. The weight of the truck alone can create waves that shift and crack nearby ice, making it extremely dangerous. Honestly, if you don't need to be out driving on the lake, don't do it. Oh no. Oh, did you hear that? Oh man, there goes the truck. Let's face it, even if you got one good measurement, that ice thickness can vary over short distances, and a frozen lake is never 100% safe, although that truck is 100% toast. Scenes like that one may actually become more common across America. Winters are warming, and the ice just doesn't last as long as it used to across many North American lakes. Climate models indicate this will continue. So take precautions seriously. Make sure to check ice thickness before you head out and enjoy that day on the lake, because times like these may not be like they used to be, and they may not last much longer.
And if you or someone with you does fall through the ice, here are some things you need to do after calling 911. Of course, that's the most important. Preach, reach, throw, go, and row. Preach, encourage the victim, reassure them that you've got help on the way. Try to keep them doing what they can to stay positive and not panic. Second, reach, extend an object. Maybe you've got something with you. You've got something in the car that may reach out to them that they'd be able to grab onto. Throw. Better yet, maybe you've got something similar to a rope or a jump rope. You can toss to them. If it's long enough, they can tie it around them and get pulled out of the water. Go. You don't want to do this unless all other techniques have been ruled out. That would be going out onto the ice. And you never want to get close to that thin ice or the spot that the person's broken through, because then you're just going to find yourself also in the water. Finally, row, a light boat. Push that to the edge of the hole, get in and pull the victim into the boat. But again, that's assuming you've got these materials. If not, obviously 911 first responders are going to have what they need to get the person out. So the best thing you can do if you don't have any supplies, you're near the person, call 911 and do the preaching. Keep them positive and wait for those first responders to arrive. Well, coming up on Weather Underground, with the severe threat comes more heavy rain in an already hard-hit region in terms of rainfall. We'll show you who's in the bullseye for the potential of weekend flooding when we come back. Well, this was the scene about 12 miles upriver from New Orleans as the Bonnecaire Spillway opened. Engineers, they decided to open the spillway Wednesday after a bout of heavy rain and rising water levels. This is actually going to divert some of the Mississippi River's water into Lake Pontchartrain, so helping to divert some of that water into another waterway. And more rain continues to fall across parts of the South where, boy, it has been soggy over the past month. We look at your month-to-date rainfall across the Southeast, parts of northern Mississippi and Alabama, throughout a good chunk of Tennessee. 1 foot to 1.5 feet of rain has come down. So no wonder we're seeing the flooding issues that we've got across a lot of the South. In fact, many of those flood gauges are in moderate or major flood stage, including along the Mississippi River, the Cumberland River. 16 gauges, by the way, are expected to reach major flood stage. More rain's on the way, so we've got to watch all the creeks, the streams, and the rivers across parts of the Southeast. Now, rainfall still to come, 1 to 3 inches, a good bet through a lot of the South. Plenty of parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. That's where the 2 to 3 inch totals are a little bit more likely, but 1 to 3 inches, a pretty solid swath of that all across the Southeast. And this evening we do have some heavier rain showers that have been following 95. So they move from around Florence up into parts of North Carolina. So right around south of the border, you know, where you see all the billboards, we've seen that heavy rain head up that direction. Scattered showers across upstate South Carolina and into western North Carolina. We get you down into the state of Louisiana, southern parts of Mississippi, and it's places like New Orleans and Biloxi that have seen some very, very heavy rain and thunderstorms. Thunderstorms right now focused around Biloxi and points north. Hattiesburg, you may be hearing some rumbles of thunder as well. In New Orleans, they were altering some of the celebrations. You know, it's Mardi Gras season, and some of the parades were altered because of the forecast for rain. Obviously, rain's one thing, but then when you've also got thunderstorms, you can't be outside. Baton Rouge, the forecast crest for the Mississippi, not until mid-March, and that's going to get up above 43 feet. At that point, industrial and agricultural activity significantly affected, and you can expect a soggy weekend across the Southeast. I showed you the rainfall totals, but in addition to the soggy weather, the stormy weather coming to a place like Jackson, Mississippi. Thunderstorms set to roll into the area Saturday night, and then more storms, more heavy rain likely on Sunday. So your severe threat focused on Sunday across parts of generally Alabama, Mississippi, southern Tennessee, and then portions of Louisiana and Arkansas. So these are the areas we want to watch most closely for the threat for hail, but especially damaging winds and isolated tornadoes. Torcon values are up to a 3 in northeast Louisiana, central Mississippi, northern Alabama. So what this means is, say a place like Jackson, Mississippi, a 30% chance of a tornado within 50 miles of that location. Same for Huntsville. Our setup is very similar to how it's been throughout the month of February. We've got that southerly flow, so tropical moisture spreading into the area, and temps are going to be warm, 60s, even 70s out there across the Southeast into Sunday. That's going to help to give us some of that energy for those storms. So we've already covered moisture. We've already covered the energy. Now we've got the wind dynamics, because our southwesterly winds out of the low levels will meet more of a westerly wind out of the upper levels. So we have a turning of winds with height. Those of you keeping track at home, you know that's wind shear, and that's something else we look at in terms of our SLIM, our ingredients for severe weather forecasting. Shear, lift, instability, moisture, high shear and moisture, medium lift and instability. And that's why there is that concern for severe storms into the end of the weekend. And the areas that we would be looking at fall in line with the typical areas where we would see the greatest risk for tornadoes this time of year. Mississippi, Alabama, getting into parts of Arkansas and Louisiana. So this falls very much in line with what we would think is the norm this time of year. We're below the norm, though, in terms of tornadoes during the month of February. Only 24 this month. Our average for the month of February, obviously it's not a big tornado month, but on average you'd see about 48. So we have seen less than average. And our streak of no violent tornadoes continues. 0 violent or EF4, EF5 tornadoes during the year 2018. That was the first year on record without an EF4, EF5 tornado. Our last EF4 was back in 2017. Our last EF5, let's keep it that way, back in 2013. Well, still to come on the show, we're watching the potential for disruptive snow in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow. We'll tell you why the timing could not be any worse for cities like D.C. or Baltimore. And a movie come to life, this man's passion giving these dogs a new purpose. A story you have to see coming up. snow into art. A dad in New Mexico built this huge sculpture of Wonder Woman in his front yard. He made it, obviously, at the request of his daughter, a big Wonder Woman fan. This is impressive work. Very intricate. And by the way, this thing's 9 feet tall. So a wonder indeed there in the neighborhood. If you're in Bloomfield, check it out. All right, welcome back into Weather Underground. We thank you so much for staying with us on this Thursday. I'm Alex Wilson. We've got winter weather expert Tom Nizzle here because we've got to break down some snowstorms. Not 1, not 2, but 3 snowstorms. 3. We're tracking them tonight. The first system is making its way towards the mid-Atlantic right now as we speak. In fact, we're already seeing the snow across sections of the Ohio Valley. This is a live look, though, at the nation's capital, where the snow is going to be moving in as we head into our morning commute. So not the best timing. Snow starts overnight and continues through the early commute, the mid-morning rush, the school bus pickup, the whole shebang. We've got to watch for it. So obviously this could cause you some trouble. 16.6 inches of snow so far this season in D.C. makes it the snowiest season since 2015, 2016. And that snow moves in tonight late. And tomorrow morning, we'll continue to see snow before we end with that rain-snow mix and rain. Right now, we've got rain in Charleston, West Virginia. Morgantown has snow, and it's the mess of all sorts of weather as you get from, say, Point Pleasant to Parkersburg there.